Tom Perez and a bunch of HR people pushing around paper inside there. Because obviously you're still with us. That was tough to watch. I'm still dealing with supporters, election integrity advocates, progressives, wonderful dog, yellow vesters. And, when we came out here, we didn't know if there's going to be hundreds or like 10. I think when it's all said and done, there's probably 2 or 3 groups here, a couple dozen maybe, which we wanted to be out here anyway for that, because I don't think they particularly mind a virtual convention because there's not as much their names, defund the police, election integrity, for sale Joe Biden, and some of the folks here. So I take it the yellow vests. Why'd you guys come out here? Obviously, a lot of you are from all over the country, but you chose to come here despite it being kind of a shadow convention and whatnot. What point do you want to get across the face?
First of all, with COVID, we just feel that the risk is worth it compared to all the masses of people that will die without Medicare. So we just figure it's time to take a last stand. But what we're here for is we're trying to battle election fraud, and we believe that the election, the primary, is illegitimate, and we feel like we got screwed. So everybody's pretty mad, pretty angry, and we're just doing what we can to try and make a difference. So. Now, our group's awfully small, but I'm awfully proud of the people that did show up. This gentleman's name is Shannon. This is Matt. And this is Sam Ronan. He's running for DNC chair. We're all here just trying to unite and trying to do some good. I feel like it's all we can do. That is all we can do.
Last night, I don't even mean to be mocking. It was just that painful.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was like the Super Bowl of identity politics. It's like those, I don't know, those groups that like put the black kid on the calendar to look like they're diverse. I mean, the opening video is like as many minorities as you can have without saying anything. By my count, the first actual substantive policy discussion was Bernie's speech an hour and a half in. I didn't hear anything before that. And one thing that stood out to me is they talked about the pandemic, just the death count, but they didn't really discuss like the tens of millions with no health care, the tens of millions facing eviction, what if Biden were in there, what they would immediately do for those people, which I guess is why you have the Medicare for All on your hat, other people. Did you hear anything from them that makes you think this is anything other than, platitudes and window dressing?
Not a thing. Not a thing. I don't believe anything Joe Biden says. He's a proven liar. I believe that anything that he says that he'll do, it's just to get elected. I just don't believe him. And I didn't hear. I saw clips of what happened last night. We were outside the fences, so we weren't watching the show, which I'm kind of glad now, considering what everybody's been saying about it. It's just platitudes. Yeah, it was rather cringeworthy from what I hear. I saw a couple clips of the performers, and I was just kind of looking at it like, what? So I don't think that they have much to offer, even if they say they do. There's nothing that would lead me to believe that Joe Biden's going to do anything that he says he's going to do. I think he's just trying to appeal to progressives to try and bring them in.
And we're like, God, I wish there was more people there, but I appreciate you guys that are here. What do you think? Because to me, I mean, Hillary Clinton, like, she was clearly courting moderate Republicans, but she wasn't as aggressively giving a middle finger to progressives. I mean, Biden's having John Kasich stand in a fork in the road. Before you know it, Dick Cheney's coming out to speak. You really just don't know.
Yeah.
They got Republicans speaking more than AOC. Ridiculous. I thought it was kind of ridiculous that Bernie wasn't the last speaker. I mean, Michelle Obama spoke well, but why isn't the guy who came in second speaking last? for progressives, have you seen anything from Biden or the Democrats as kind of overtures that they understand the importance of progressives, young people, and they're actually going to listen to you if elected?
No. For example, I mean, at least Hillary Clinton, she had a lower age to qualify for Medicare, even though she wasn't going to go for Medicare for all. And as far as I'm concerned, Biden has just given the finger to the left this entire campaign, all the way from the beginning of the primary, pretty much. I don't believe that he has done anything to court us. If anything, it's just him trying to court anti-Trump Republicans. And it's not even like there's a lot of them, in my opinion. I mean, he did kind of overtake that party, but I don't think it was a good strategy because this is why I'm here for Bernie. I feel like Bernie could have united the left with the Democratic Party, and we could have much easier taken out Trump. As for the progressives, I feel like they just expect us to fall in line, and it's never been like that for us. We have values. We have our votes have to be earned. Real. Like it can't be just something you adopted overnight as a punchline to bring people in to appeal to us. That's why we like Bernie. He's been fighting for the same thing his entire career. I mean, even when he changes, it's literally just because he's become more progressive or somebody made a valid point to him. Joe Biden doesn't care about hearing anybody else's opinion. I mean, you see in Iowa, like when he was confronted about climate change, for example, all he did was go off on the gentleman who was a well-known local person. He just goes off on the people that he's expecting to vote for him, just because they disagree with him on policy. Bernie is not like that. He will listen to you, and even if he disagrees, he's still going to respect you. We don't get that from Joe Biden.
And make sure you press the like buttons. Keep sharing that good stuff. One thing that really sticks out to me is Biden keeps saying, this is the United States of America. There's not a damn thing we cannot do, except Medicare for all, except the Green New Deal, except banning fracking, except freezing the rent, canceling the rent. It's, I think that maybe there's more of a case than 4 years ago that a candidate could win just saying, get rid of this guy. But I mean, I was at this Trump rally yesterday, and if they were a 7 out of 10 crazy in 2016, they're an 11 out of 10 now. I mean, that was something. And I don't see that same kind of, the people I do speak to that are for Biden don't really speak about Biden, per se. And with mail-in ballots and so much unpredictability, it just dawns on me that, we were fed this propaganda for 2 years that Biden was the safest candidate, most electable, the Midwest loves, co-pays, deductibles, moderation. Yet CNN's most recent poll just had Biden up 4 points. Swing states were close. That was kind of an outlier. Other polls have him up more, but honestly, you would think in a pandemic with 170,000 people dead, he'd be up by 20 points. I mean, why is it even this close, Sam?
Well, and I'm running again now for the DNC chair. The DNC lacks leadership. They lack a spine. They lack courage. They lack any meaningful action to address these issues. You have millions of Americans who are fed up with the two-party system, who would instead, they have a Tea Party Republican governor speak at their convention. The entire 96 RNC lineup was speaking at the Democratic Party. There is no substance to them whatsoever. They aren't trying to appeal to the people that are energetic, that are their base. We came from all over the country to be here. That is the strong, energetic base of the Democratic Party that they should be courting. Leftists are stronger, we're more energetic, we're more informed, and we are willing to go the distance, literally, for something that we believe in. We saw it for Bernie Sanders, we saw it for Tulsi Gabbard, and we saw it for AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and Ilhan Omar. So with Joe Biden legitimately refusing to adapt simple policies that could realistically win him the election, bar none, in a landslide, it doesn't make any sense. Now, to compare him as somehow a lesser of two evils against Trump is absolutely foolish. He wrote the 94 crime bill. He wrote much of the legislation or endorsed a lot of the legislation that enabled Trump to be Trump, to allow the Republican Party to establish a coup d'etat against the United States government. We are closer to facing an authoritarian, racist, or fascist regime than at any other time in our nation's history. And it's because of policies like Joe Biden. It's because of the Democrats' unwillingness to stand their ground and fight for their values. If Kamala Harris and Nancy Pelosi actually fought against Mitch McConnell or Ted Cruz and actually stood their ground and forced them to come to the left, like the Tea Party forced the Democrats to go to the right. Sorry about that. The Democratic Party would be significantly stronger and significantly more respected. So as it stands, the Democratic Party of today is going to fall. It is going to fail. Biden will lose, and they will only have themselves to blame for it. So the last vestige of hope that a lot of us have is that the progressive movement infiltrates either at the fall of the DNC party or by helping me get elected to becoming the chair, because that's what I want to do. I want to bring the leftists in. I want to bring people in who give a damn about their country and give them the tools and resources to do it. In 2017, I said we should be redistributing the DNC funds to local and rural communities, the communities that have been left behind and left to suffer under Republican rule and leadership. That's what we need. That's what people are demanding. And to do anything less, that's just disingenuous and doomed to failure.
Out here, and maybe Bernie supporters who are just holding their nose, voting for Biden, is those folks and the wine moms also, the resistance, feel like fascism in America started with Trump.
Yeah.
Whereas folks here see the nuance that we already had fascism, it just wasn't as overt and public. So for you guys, do you feel that, we're seeing, you have media figures on the progressive left saying this, let's get rid of Trump and then we'll fight Biden on day one.
Yeah.
Does that doesn't ring true to you? Like you can't just get rid of Trump and then galvanize the left to fight Biden on day one?
It has been the narrative that's been shared that you can, once we get this politician out, this bad politician out, or make sure they don't get the position, then we can push the politicians on policy. That's not fundamentally how politics work. That's not how they work. Politicians are looking for your vote before they're voting in, and so they're trying to make connections and parlay for the people, and the people demanding what they want. Right now it's corporatists and large corporations that have the most influence, not the people. But right now...
Are you telling me that when Biden told what you're referring to?
Yes, he is lying about that, and that was almost all but confirmed by John Kasich last night by saying that Biden is a strong guy, he's not going to go left on these policies. But the problem is that right now, why we're here, this is when to pressure politicians into what we want, the people want, not after they're elected. It sounds kind of backwards from what we're used to or what we've been told by our the DNC, by the RNC, but that's fundamentally how politics work. That's just how it works. We need to stand right now before we elect him in.
So what do you think? A lot of people probably here weren't even involved before Bernie kind of galvanized the troops. He says to his supporters, I'm paraphrasing, but like now's not the time. It's going to get a lot worse if this guy gets 4 more years. We're making inroads with Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush, these progressives coming in, but Biden can be moved. Where I see it, if he can be moved, he wouldn't have chosen Kamala Harris as vice president.
Bingo.
If he can be moved, he's not. You're going to lower the Medicare age to 60? That's worse than Hillary Clinton. It's a pandemic, tens of millions with no health care still. Not budging an inch. So how does the progressive movement move somebody who, frankly, it's not quite clear he's even going to be running the country, whether through cognitive things or whichever donors are pulling his strings. It just seems like Bernie, who I have a lot of respect for, is advocating for moving a 78-year-old man who's basically been a country club Republican since the 1970s.
I'm not entirely sure what the next step is, but it's going to have to come to a general strike sooner rather than later, especially if it goes really downhill, quote unquote, for the Democratic Party and Trump wins, just like Sam was saying. There's a big chance that Trump will win re-election due to the rigging and due to the fact that there's not a base that is inspired by Biden's platform. That's what's important. So I think the next step is going to have to be a general strike at some point. We, the people, and what we provide to our economy and our ecosystem is the labor that we put in. If we don't give that labor, then the people that are ruling over us can't operate either. We have to make demands. We need more labor unions. We need more people joining socialist parties. And millions of people, just like around the time of FDR's re-election, demanding what the people need and making sure those policies actually be enacted before we elect a politician into office.
Do you want to say something? Biden doesn't care about the left. He clearly can't read the room. The left is clearly, at a crossroad with Black Lives Matter movement going on right now, and all these these protests and riots against police, and yet he picks a prosecutor to be his vice presidential. Like, he can't read the room. And I'm saying that not just as like an observer. I've literally suffered under parts of the bills and the funding of state level like prison building from federal money of his bills. Like, I served 23 months in prison. That it would have been a shorter sentence if his 94 crime bill had never been put in place. Even if he didn't create it, like, let's just, given that's being generous, he's still the godfather of the modern mass incarceration and made it massively worse. And I mean, I was pretty much voicing, I literally proved through fingerprint evidence that I never touched this stuff, and yet I was not able to go home. I got convicted, and because of, ironically, because of his bills that pushed for these longer sentences, like the triple sentencing laws on the state levels, I am not able to vote. So even if he wanted me to vote for him, I couldn't. And it's a shame, because now I'm out here just doing what I can, and that's protesting to get these things changed, and he doesn't want to listen to us.
And I also think, and I want to get to you guys, marijuana, because Wall Street doesn't want that legalized. Big Pharma don't want that legalized. I mean, marijuana, I dabble occasionally, but it's just insulting people's intelligence. So from marijuana to reacting to a civil rights movement and explosion by offering more money for police under the guise of, community policing, whatever that means. I'd also like to touch on, though, I'm just going to be honest, I tell people vote however you want. But you go into these Trump rallies, there's a real sickness going on in America. So this isn't really like a defense of Biden, but what do you say to those people that say, I understand he's not your guy, but if we allow Trump 4 more years, we might just be a full fascist state, because these people are, we saw yesterday, they're chanting N-words at black people. I think Trump is kind of, if Trump's legacy is one thing, it's like enabling people to say the quiet part out loud, I don't know, I don't think that genie's getting put back in the bottle, whether Trump's defeated or not. But what would you say to people who say, put your vests on the day after Biden gets in, we got to get rid of this fascist?
Regardless of which fascist is elected, we need to keep the vests on and keep going hard. Even like hypothetically, if a miracle happened and Bernie was elected and he became our president, I think he'd receive so much resistance that we're going to have to hit the streets anyway. And so, whichever fascist gets elected, it ain't the right one. And speak to your question a little earlier about progressives and what's the next step and what can they do. I feel like there is a lot of people, a lot of good people that feel that their responsibility as a participating citizen ends with voting. Well, if we don't get who we want, we're just going to go green, and we'll vote green, and that's it. And that's where our responsibility begins. It begins with voting. I sincerely believe that the Democrats are controlled opposition for the Republicans, and that they're both the same animal.